All right, Danny, let's rock and roll. So today's podcast, let's do it, buddy. So this is what we're discussing on the podcast today. Here's what's on the menu. We're going to be going over the CrossFit definition of gymnastics. We're also going to be chatting about how it differs from traditional gymnastics and CrossFit, why it's crucial for overall CrossFit performance. Then we're going to move into the benefits of CrossFit gymnastics. We're going to go over how it boosts body awareness, control, enhances strength and flexibility, improves technique for other CrossFit movements, which is a hidden benefit, the importance of mastering foundational movements. We're also going to go over some exercises, some suggested exercises, I should say. We're also going to be finishing with the best way to get better at gymnastics quickly, and then we'll wrap things up from there. All right. So I know we got a lot to cover today. Yeah. Let's get into it, though. All right, let's do it. So I'm just going to get right into the CrossFit definition of gymnastics. I'm also going to define what the traditional term of gymnastics is from the dictionary, and then Danny and I will kind of going to go back and forth and discuss it. But I'll just read it off for everyone so we all know. So in CrossFit, body weight movements are considered gymnastics. So anything from like an air squat, push-up, pull-up, etc. And we're taking the skills from the sport of gymnastics and applying them to workouts. So in CrossFit, the gymnastic label is applied to any exercise in which you move your body through range of motion or extended range of motion without an external load. So isometric holds are also considered gymnastics. And so the CrossFit use of term of gymnastics is not only includes like competitive Olympic sport movements like muscle ups and stuff, but it also includes activities which the aim is for essentially body control. Yeah. So calisthenics is considered the same realm.
Well, they made it all encompassing. So the best way to remember it, that I always remembered it, was body weight movement in space. Mm-hmm. So that gives that's a lot of variables, right?
Right.
Like, you think about any kind of movement in space, you're basically doing gymnastics.
Yes.
And that's the way they defined it, to make it all encompassing. So it's not down a pigeonhole, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like, oh, it's only, tumbling, or it's only like bar work or things like that. It encompasses all of it.
Right.
So that the coach and the programmer can go from the smallest minute detail to the biggest, most complicated piece.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people have a misconception that gymnastics is strictly only what they see in the Olympics or what they see in Cirque du Soleil.
Or what their kids do.
Do, when gymnastics really, at its most basic form, is air squats, push-ups, pull-ups.
I'm still waiting. I have been in CrossFit for a long time, but when are we getting the trampoline? I have been waiting.
The trampoline looks like fun.
I think I can make the games if this happens.
And before we dig a little deeper, I am going to define what the traditional sense of gymnastics is, which is a competitive sport in which individuals perform optimal. Was it optional?
Optimal, I believe.
I think it says optional. Anyway, I'm just reading from it. And
Stupid
prescribed
Wikipedia.
Acrobatic feats, mostly on a special apparatus in order to demonstrate strength, balance, and body control.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a mouthful.
Well, if you think about it, like, gymnasts are very specific to one discipline, right? They like to have one really go-to discipline, and then they will branch out from there, mm-hmm. right? Like, so if you're like a tumbler, which is the ones that do the flips and things like that, they'll do like the flag twirling or the ribbon wand thing too, mm-hmm. as well. Like, whereas, like, if you're doing the uneven bars, then you're maybe doing the rings as well.
Yeah, the higher pommel horse.
There's a million. There's a bunch of different tools and aspects.
Uneven bars, parallel bars.
Yeah.
There's so many different variances.
I think about when you think about the beginning of CrossFit, like, we were stuck doing one type of exercise with machine work, or maybe with some free weights here and there, but mm-hmm. we weren't really like looking at your body weight, like your range of motion, right? Or the way your body is handling load, or looking at like just putting more load on in a specific range of motion. So if you think like a lat pull down machine, right? Mm-hmm. You're only going to get so much range of motion out of the lat pull down machine, right?
Yes.
I can change my hand grip, 12 different ways. I can actually change the angle that I'm sitting, but I'm only going to get one range of motion at the end range or the bottom range as well. Whereas if I did a pull up, I could actually do a pull up on a straight bar. I could do them on rings. I could do them on a low horizontal progression, right? And so now I can change the angle and the diameter, and I can actually hit different muscle groups that are maybe injured or maybe like are weaker than other specific areas, right? And so now we're touching all these different muscle groups by making you do 2 or 3 different variations.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I see, even with the technical definition, as I'm looking back at it, says demonstrate strength, balance, and body control. So, I mean, that encompasses, everything. Even
that sounds like walking.
Yeah, I mean, for some of us it is.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So we went over the definition. Let's go ahead and chat, and we went over how it differs from CrossFit. From traditional gymnastics to CrossFit gymnastics, and let's chat a little bit more about why it's crucial for overall CrossFit performance.
I mean, if you just break down the definition of the balance control, right, or just the body awareness in space, that's what we're moving heavy loads, right, in fast directions. So to have control, right, to have like you think about like a pretty complex thing in my mind is the split jerk, right? Mm-hmm. You're taking weight from the front rack or from the chest area of your body and you're throwing it over your head, right? You're moving in such an aggressive force and you're landing essentially, like you're not pressing, you're landing underneath this bar. So you have to have the ability to catch it and have support, right? Like you have to trust that your legs are going to move in the right direction without looking at them and your arms are going the opposite direction at the same time. So having that body control is like parallel. Like you just need that for like good health overall, or else if you hit this wrong, we've all been in that situation where we land with our feet too close or with our arms just not in the right position, and we kind of get a little tweak or we get a little pinch in the side, right? And you're like, oh, I did something wrong, right? And instantly. But it's like you can drill this with body, with gymnastics moves or body weight movements to find the right positioning for yourself.
Yeah, and it's really important just for your overall health and well-being to be able to control your own body. I mean, like essentially a burpee is getting yourself off the ground. Yeah, and it's getting yourself up and off the ground. And if you can't, do that, how are you going to save yourself in any situation? So having awareness and having control of your own body and be able to move it well is going to be beneficial in the long run.
I mean, I think, there's 2 things that you can go this way. But like the first thing is we get a bad rap from the mainstream, like CrossFit in general gets a bad rap from the mainstream because we've taken ideals that are very specific to a realm, like so gymnastics, right? Mm-hmm. And we've manufactured them into making high volume concepts, right? So like the kip. The kip is used in gymnastics to get up on the pull-up bars, right? To get going. And we've taken it and been like, okay, here's a way to add volume into our training and to really test volume grip, volume lats, volume shoulders, right? And we've applied it in there. And we've gotten the knock because it's like, well, it's not real pull-ups. You guys do these weird things. It's like, well, we've adopted them from somewhere else, right? Like we didn't invent them for those pieces. So like that's kind of the first thing looking in is you look in and go, you're not doing real gymnastics because you have this piece. And it's like, well, yeah, we're taking pieces of the puzzle and we're applying it to the areas that we need the most.
Yeah, and technically by definition, we are doing real gymnastics.
I mean, yeah.
But by the technical definition.
You know what I mean?
It's just not it's just not maybe in the traditional sense of what everyone is used to. Because, people get so married to one traditional side of thinking and they become purists in that area. And then anything other than that is dogma.
Well, I just like the most dangerous concept anyone can ever have in their mind is because, well, that's the way it was.
It's always been.
Right. It's always that way, so it has to be that way. And it's like, okay, if that was the case, we never would have found CrossFit because that's what we broke the norm trying to build something new, right? Mm-hmm. So when you have this here and you look at these, what we want is full range of motion, right, is what we're looking at. A lot of times when people go work out, they don't do full range of motion, either due to an injury or fear or
bad coaching,
or I was going to say
bad body awareness.
Well, I was just going to say like bad voices around them, right? Like I know when I first started working out, bro science was like, hey, listen, man, you don't go full range, don't do full lockout. It's bad for the elbows. Mm-hmm. When really it's like if I'm not doing full lockout, it's really bad for my biceps, right? Like think about the bench press, right?
Yep.
I'm keeping so much tension that's not great for me, right there. So we found that not to be true, right? So what we're looking at is taking. I mean, you gotta think about it. Like 1% of everyone in the world who does CrossFit is really a games athlete, right? In terms of numbers. So the rest of us, we're doing this for fun. We're doing this for fitness. We're doing this for just something to keep us like motivated into.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to stay healthy, right? So as like a coach, as like a facilitator of this, how do I keep you healthy in those terms, right? I need you to get full range of motion. I need you to go the full length to get like find your limitations and then strengthen those limitations, right? Not ignore them. A lot of times like people have shoulder surgery, right? Or they have shoulder issues and they come in like, I can't do that. It's like, Okay, here's 12 progressions to get you here. Sure, it's not here today, but if we go through these progressions of finding your range of motion and fixing it and working through those pieces, we'll get you here eventually.
Yeah.
Right? Through time, through effort, and through consistency, we'll get you there. Right? And I think that's a hard concept right away because who wants to do remedial things, right, when they feel like they should be doing harder versions, right? So that's one of the things where they fall off and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do jumping pull-ups today. I'd rather do banded pull-ups because they feel like they work more. It's like, well, they're not. I mean,
the resistance is too inconsistent,
right? Like,
and you're not getting the full benefit. That's why variance is so important,
right? And it's like, so we don't get that because we're just like, well, we do one thing and then we stick to it.
Yeah.
When really the coach or the facilitator should be like, I want full range of motion. I want this lockout. Define it to them, show it to them, and then have them work through it at their best of their abilities. You know, just because someone doesn't have the in range of motion as some of us, right? Like if you think, I just look at our gym. Take Coach Kim for example. Amazing mobility, right? I wish I could be that mobile, right? Especially in her overhead positionings, like her snatch or her overhead squat, right? I would show that range of motion to somebody, right? Like, and you just look at it and go, this is where we want to be. Can we get there now? Like, sure, not right. Maybe if I forced you into all the positions, right? But here's our steps to get you there.
Yeah.
And then we have a guideline of what to follow, right?
Perfect.
It isn't like, oh yeah, I'll never do that. It's like, okay, I'm coming for that. And this is how I'm going to get there.
Yeah, there has to be a roadmap to get there.
Exactly.
And that leads us perfectly into our next segment, which is the benefits of CrossFit gymnastics. So we kind of already covered this, but it boosts body awareness and control. It enhances strength and flexibility, improves technique and performance in other CrossFit movements. And it's important to master these foundational movements because it does set you up for success later on in life and for later on when you progress to more advanced movements. So let's chat a little bit about all these points that I just listed off. That's a lot.
And check. Yeah. So we've covered a few of these already, right? With kind of the demos that we talked about. What I would tell you is like, look, we all want to get stronger, right? So how do we get stronger? Well, we got to have control of the body, right? If you think about, if I was to say, hey, let's go out and get faster at running, right? We don't just keep running the same distance over and over again, right? We got to work on our like foot stepping, like how far apart are our feet at distance, right? Are we sprinting? Are we not? Are we landing a full foot, not full foot, right? Those are aspects you would look at if you were going to coach someone through running, okay? If we're doing weightlifting, right, or anything like, let's just take weightlifting for example, because that's sexy, that's what we like, that's what we all came for, right? If we're doing weightlifting, it's like, all right, you're missing the lift in this area. We say that a lot to people, and people are like, what does that really mean? It means that you're lacking some sort of stability in your core or shoulder or leg that is causing you to land too far forward, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people want to skip right to weightlifting when really, if you don't have control over your own body first, and you don't have the body awareness, you don't have the midline stability, how can you control an external load?
And like it gets a little bit more like a good example of this is myself, right? I was pretty solid at weightlifting. I felt really comfortable in a lot of the weightlifting I did, but I got stuck in a lot of numbers, right? I couldn't get over certain percentages of my lifts, and I was having a really hard time with it, especially with my overhead pressing and my overhead ability to hold things over my head was just ridiculous, right? But it stemmed to my handstand push-up progression. I was really bad at doing handstand push-ups. Like strict handstand push-ups were almost impossible, right? So kipping is where I was at, and then I took the time, we took the time to work on, I couldn't even handstand walk like 2 feet without eating it, so we took the time on working handstand stability for me, like holding handstands forever, right? Doing progressions like to a target, like to an ab mat, like, or low progression handstand, strict handstand push-ups. I did a lot of core work of strengthening those positions.
Yep.
And then when I'm putting I'm at the age where PRs are not coming very often, right? Like at a certain point, your body gets old enough, and you've had your past your areas of when you're going to grow and things like that. You're not going to PR, right? Like you're just going to stay within a certain range of numbers, but like be able to hit all my clean and jerks or my snatches at frequently, and to stay healthy and to stay going the way I am. It's like that all comes back to like increasing my shoulder health, increasing my scapula health, increasing my lat health by doing body weight awareness drills instead of just doing weightlifting progressions, right?
Yeah,
that's where that came from.
Yeah, you can only do so much volume when it comes to weightlifting. But when it comes to body weight movements and calisthenics, that's a lot easier on the nervous system, so you can get a lot more volume in, and it also will build muscle. It will strengthen your tendons, your ligaments. It'll just make you more resilient because you can just do more of it.
I mean,
at the end of the day, it's taxing.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like, you can move your body well. Like, we're made to move our own body, right? Like, when you start adding external load to it, that's when the body starts to like really accelerate. But I mean, like, if we wanted to do 1,000 push-ups today, sure, we probably couldn't do it at one time. But if I gave you 24 hours and you worked out so many, like you did so many push-ups every hour, you could do it. You can make yourself through it. Like, you can progress.
You'd be sore, but you could do it.
Right. Like, but it wouldn't be like, it'd be soreness. It wouldn't be like pain. It wouldn't be like I tore something or I broke something.
Exactly.
Right?
Like if you did 1,000 thrusters at 135, then that'd be a different story.
You couldn't even say that. That's how terrible that was.
Exactly. We can't even say that without throwing up. And also it's important to remember that, you know, low skill gymnastics are also more forgiving if you mess up on the mechanics of it. So for example, like, you know, you can mess up an air squat and the chance of you getting injured is pretty low. But if you mess up your squat mechanics on a 1 rep max, things can go wrong pretty quickly and the risk factor goes up.
And I would also like relay this to everyone else too. Is like the reason you start with foundational movements of body weight, right? If you think about it, you start with the air squat, the push up, right? Maybe even some handstands type progressions, is because your body weight movements should mimic your barbell movements as well.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I have really a poor air squat, well, guess what? My back squat's going to be very poor because my mechanics are not going to transfer well.
And
right?
then from a coaching standpoint, that lets us identify weak areas or range of motion areas or mobility issues that we can address. And then that, you know, gives us a warning sign before we start adding an external load to you.
Or like we can prep, like we know it's coming and we can prep through foundational pieces going into it. Like if I know you're having a hard time with your ankle stability, like if ankles are a problem, I know that's a thing, you know, like there's going to be a real limit to letting you go. So we might have to do like remedial box squats or something, squats to target with load to help you ease into it so that you don't wind up hurting a knee or a hip because of this one problem that you have that we can't, that we're working on as we progress, right?
Absolutely. That leads us perfectly into our last one. Let's go into our final phase, which is the best way to get better at gymnastics quickly. Yes, the moment you've all been waiting for, because everybody wants to get better at things quickly, and they also want the best. So, Danny, let's chat a little bit. I think we both know the answer to this, but I mean, you need to get coaching first and foremost.
You really need it for 2 points, right? Point A would be you need to know what you're doing wrong, right? It's hard to identify problems by yourself, okay? I use myself as an example, right? It was hard for me to identify that, hey, I'm missing a split jerk at like 275 because my core is super weak and my lats don't have the volume to hold this over my head. Now, in my mind, I'm like, what are you talking about? I can do so many pull-ups, right? But with the terms of what the coach is seeing, they're like, no. We need to strengthen this part of your body because here's why. Here's test A. You're in the bottom 1% of test A. Here's test B. You're in the top, 10% over here. It needs to be in the middle. You need to like move it up, right? So right away, you need someone externally identifying flaws right away. Okay, that's one reason. 2, you need someone to map a plan out for you. You need someone that's going to hold accountability towards that plan. It's easy to say, hey, Matt, your core's weak. Do more core work. Okay, well, what are you going to do? Core work that you like, right? Sit-ups, maybe GHD sit-ups. Maybe you throw some toes to bar in there when really you should be doing L-sit holds. You should be doing hollow holds, Supermans, right? Russian twist. There's a plethora of things, and you need the coach to map that out and then be like, did you do this?
Let's be real that the chances of you actually identifying what you need to do to get better is very low. And then even if you do know what to do, the chance of you actually executing on that is even lower.
Yeah. I would say like it's easy to draw a plan out. Like everyone, it's easy to write it out, right? Like you're like,
it's really easy.
I'll do X, Y, Z, and then
following through is a whole nother story.
Exactly. Like Monday, Tuesday comes in. All right, I'm tired. Wednesday, Thursday, I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do it. I know. I agree. I don't want to do it either. Believe me.
So you need someone who's gonna. It sounds like it does sound kind of like not dumb, but it does sound kind of low on the bar. But honestly, having someone say it out loud, like, hey, this is my goal. This is what I want to do. Right. And then have someone write that down and go, this is what you said to me. This is what I'm holding you to.
And this is also how to do it. Here's your roadmap.
Here's your roadmap right here. And then let's go and do this. Right.
Yeah. And I think the only way you won't be successful is if you don't listen and you don't follow the plan and execute on it.
The biggest problem I see with everyone, right? And this is from like beginner to intermediate to advanced. The biggest problem I see is we don't stick to the laid out plan, right? We get like, so if the goal is, let's just take the bar muscle up because we've been working that a lot at Red Wolf, right? Our goal is to get 15 bar muscle ups unbroken. It's on the board. We've shown you, and that's what we want, right? So a lot of people's first ideal is to get one bar muscle up, right? Well, the plan is written out for you to get 15 unbroken, and we're going to work you through it. Now, you can't see the master plan because, right, the coach has got it. They're guiding you along the process. But right away, as soon as we get 1 or 2 and we start getting the strength, like they jump off the plan. I don't need that anymore. I'll do this, right? And it's like, and then after like 3 or 4 months, they got to come back and like, all right, now I got to do better at getting like 4 or 5. And you're like, yeah, if you just would have stuck to the plan, we would be there already, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you just set yourself back because you jumped over the fence, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's really easy to get distracted and get bright, shiny object syndrome. You got to stay focused and stay on task at all times.
Because it's hard. Like, let's be honest. Like, after a workout, like it's not sexy to go sit in the back and do, remedial L-sit progressions, because that's what you need to work is your lower ab hip flexor thing after a workout. And you do like, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. You do that for like 10 rounds, and that's your accessories for the day. Exactly. You go home, right? Everyone's like, well, what about biceps? What about triceps? What about this? And you're like, yeah, not today, man.
Yeah. Well, a coach can also help you walk that fine line also of knowing if you're doing enough or if you're doing too little. And a lot of times, it's really hard to find that line even for a coach when you're coaching someone. So being able to work with someone and being like, okay, we're not pushing hard enough in this area specifically. You're pushing hard here, but we need to ramp it up here and back off on here in order to be as optimal as possible. Because, I mean, people don't realize how much time they waste by not training in an optimal zone.
Yeah. We waste time like training in the zone I'll just use myself again, man. I hate doing cardio work because I always thought I was really good at it, right? And I spent a lot of time doing more weightlifting and things like that. And when the reality sets in that, hey, you're really bad at gymnastics and you're really bad at like transitioning for your cardio, and someone comes in and they're like, you're not lifting for the whole week. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm going to lose all my gains. Like, no, you're not.
Exactly. Because you think you're going to lose everything that you are good at by focusing on some of your weaknesses.
That's always my biggest fear. I'm always like, oh my God, what do you mean? And it's like, I can't tell you how many times like I haven't clean or jerked or snatched for 2 weeks, and then I come back and PR. Like I come back and I hit a lift I haven't hit in like 2 or 3 months. Right? Like it's amazing how it cross transfers over. Yeah. But it takes someone to you can't see the path, right? If we could, we'd all be experts at making our own body better.
Yeah. Right? Another good example is when we first started working with Coach Kim. So she used to work one-on-one and get private programming from a coach, and she wouldn't work out with our classes. She would always work out during open gym, so she wouldn't do any Red Wolf programming. And what happened was once she moved over to strictly us and she started working out with classes and started seeing the progressions, and she was kind of worried. She was like, back then she's stronger now, but back then she was known for her strength, but that was about it. She wasn't that great at anything else, like no offense, but she just wasn't. She wasn't as balanced as she could have been.
Great weightlifter.
And
but her gymnastics was
and
very
and
poor.
Her conditioning wasn't very good.
Yeah,
or her overall aerobic base wasn't very good. But then once we started working on that, she was really afraid at first because she's like, I think I'm going to get weaker.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, she's like putting up weights that she's never put up before by lifting actually less. And then her conditioning's better, her aerobic base is better, her gymnastics are better. Like I've never seen her in such good shape before, and she's actually training with less things, but she just sticks with the plan and she doesn't deviate from the plan, and then she gets results from it.
I mean, that's a great example. Like I've seen that firsthand too over the last couple of years too with her, and it's hard to like look at her now, but like she was not the animal that she is now. Like
she was not. No.
Now she's like, you're like, oh no, like she's
gotten so good. Yeah, she's gotten so good. So in a nutshell, everybody, get a coach because they can help you walk the fine line of doing either too much or too little. They will definitely help you get in the optimal training zone.
I would also say this too, right? At Red Wolf, what do we do for our extra programming? We make it a group effort, right? Mm-hmm. We make it a community effort. It's not just traditionally one-on-one. We put it in the group, right? Which is our build and burn, and we throw it out there. And then you have accountability partners other than your coach. Yes. Right? Like hey, who's doing the build and burn after class? You hear it every day, right? You watch them throw down, you watch the commitment people go and do it. And then you have someone who's going to stand next to you and be like, hey, listen, let's do the rows. Hey, let's do the flies. Hey, let's do these workouts that are going to help you get better, but you would suck to do it by yourself. So it helps to have a community-based aspect towards that. So I would say that too. Find you not just a good coach who's going to watch it, critique it, and give you a path, but find you like partners who are going to help guide you through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys are at Red Wolf and you guys are looking to get some extra training in, definitely check out our 6:30 bodybuilding class. It doesn't cost you anything, so it'll definitely give you guys some extra work to get done.
Getting thick.
And then back to kind of like the summary of the coaching is that, you'll also get personalization. So, tailored training to suit your fitness level and address specific weaknesses. You're going to get technique optimization. So you're going to be able to fine tune your movements and drastically improve your performance a lot faster, especially if you were doing that on your own. And then finally, efficiency. So coaches, what we do is we guide you to get the maximum amount of results in less time, because believe me, I've taken it from someone who's tried to figure out on their own. You waste a lot of time, and we're not going to get more of that. So any final thoughts here, Danny, before I summarize the entire podcast?
Nope. Sounds good to me. Like, we've all been there. So find a way to get out of the rut, find a way to get better. This is the time of year to do it. We're in October, November, December. This is the time to get better for the new year. So good luck with it.
Yeah, let's finish strong, everyone. All right, so just to sum up today's podcast, we define what CrossFit Gymnastics is, which is just simply we're taking skills from the sport of gymnastics and applying them to workouts. So anything through range of motion, it's any body weight movement that requires body control, balance, and strength. And it's crucial for CrossFit performance because it boosts, like we said, body awareness and control, enhances strength and flexibility, and improves technique for other CrossFit movements, and it lays the foundation for more advanced movements moving on. And then finally, having coaching is definitely going to optimize your training because they will help you get the maximum amount of results in less time, which is what everybody wants at the end of the day. Well, that sums things up. Oh, our next podcast, we're going to be chatting about weightlifting, which is going to be fun. Weightlifting and throwing. So that's going to be stage 4 in our podcast. So definitely tune into that one. We'll let you know when that one's released. And I should probably do my sign off. Here we go. So thank you so much for listening. If this was helpful, please leave us a 5-star review so we know to make more content just like this. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Red Wolf CrossFit, and please send us some messages there. We're always looking for new podcast topics. Until next time, good luck. Have fun.
Nailed it.